to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
And welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. It's That Kevin Show. And again, another great selection from Tim McGraw and Faith Hill in tonight's spotlight as we work our way to the final portion of the show tonight. I hope you'll stay with us. I'm very excited to welcome back Jenny Gentles from the Independent Women's Forum. I just love the Independent Women's Forum because of all the good that they are doing. They've had the Title IX bus tour out there, making great waves in places that needed to hear that message. But Jenny's focus is on, most of the time, it's on educational issues and how that's impacting you and your kids and what's happening educationally in the country. Jenny, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit. We're in convention season now. Next week, the Republicans are going to line it up in Milwaukee. A little bit after that, you got the Democrats going to tee it up in Chicago, regardless of who the nominee is coming out of it. I've told people from the beginning, the race doesn't change. You can take Biden out and stick Kamala in there or Michelle Obama or whoever you want to, but this is an Obama apparatus administration. Their approach to education is what they're going to be pursuing into a new administration if they were to win the election in November. So what we really need to understand is what's important to them. And I think they're largely informed by the NEA and the other teachers unions. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right, Kevin. And the NEA loves Joe Biden, but they'll take Kamala Harris too. They're really careful in how they word things in their endorsement. They talk about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are leading the most pro-union administration in modern history. So they throw both names in there, and they throw their full endorsement and their political war chest and machine as well.
And as I just said, it doesn't matter if Kamala is overlooked, because if you put Michelle Obama in there, this has been an Obama apparatus. This is the only administration in the modern era, since I've been watching politics, that does not have control of its own top thinkers and chiefs. And that's what kind of sets this administration apart. That and a lot of bad policy, but that's a different total discussion. Let's get into the conventions are going to come up. Do you anticipate that education will be addressed by both Republicans and Democrats, and how do you think it will differ?
Well, I was hoping we would talk a little bit about the conventions that the unions are having.
We're going to get to that too.
They're doing their best.
I want to lay the groundwork, because what the teachers will decide to do at their conventions, I think, is going to be in some level reactionary to what the politicians are going to be calling for.
Well, the National Education Association just had their annual meeting, and they invited President Biden to come speak. So absolutely, the unions want to get the attention of politicians. They want to get the attention of their members and ensure that union endorsed candidates are going to win.
Advocated for, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did they uncover at their recent meeting?
Well, it was the most interesting NEA or union summer gathering that we've had that I can remember, because what ended up happening was, after the first day, the NEA's staff went on strike and it shut the next 3 days down. So yes, the union has a union, and the union's union went on strike and accused the NEA, again, that's the National Education Association, the biggest teachers union in the country, of all kinds of nefarious things. And President Biden's campaign staff said that he wasn't going to cross the picket line, and so he canceled that speech. So to your initial question, do we think education is going to come up at the political conventions? I'm sure that the union hopes so, because their political rally, their annual summer meeting, was shut down due to a strike.
But if they wanted to solve that problem and hold their convention and push forward an agenda, and if they have an agenda for what they would like to accomplish in a second Biden term, what does that look like?
Oh, more of the same. Like you said, that this is a continuation of the Obama administration, and you can get that reality very clear when you look at who staffed the Obama administration and who's staffing the U.S. Department of Education under the Biden administration. It's a lot of the same names, and that happens with both parties. But for example, Catherine Lehman is the head of the Office of Civil Rights, just like she was in the Obama administration, and she's leading the way in all this Title IX stuff that we're always calling attention to. So it would be a continuation of the same very pro-left, very progressive, very radical agenda that we see now.
Well, for people that are maybe uninitiated, maybe they don't have kids in school, but they're concerned about the kids of the country, what have been some of the biggest changes since the Bidens have come to power?
The biggest change absolutely has been the illegal rewrite of Title IX. People think that that is just about women's sports. It's not. It covers all of the education experience, any school that receives federal funding, and that includes K-12. And the Biden administration has been rewriting a protection of sex discrimination to also include gender identity. And that means any boy, any man, any male can self-identify as a woman and be in women's spaces, scholarships, opportunities. And so we're really concerned about that specifically, but we definitely see an anti-education freedom, anti-school choice agenda. They've done everything they can to diminish the impact of the federal charter school program, to restrict that as much as possible. And we're going to see more waste when it comes to federal funds than we've ever seen before. There was $190 billion sloshing around in supplemental federal funding that went out the door, and the Biden administration has no idea really how that was spent.
And not only do they not have any idea, they don't care to be accountable for what they need to know about that. So they're not even curious enough to go investigate it. A lot of the problem with the teachers unions have to do with their leadership. And recently, the president of the NAA had some very interesting things to say about the state of where, this issue. What were some of the takeaways from her, what many are calling an unhinged speech?
It's hard. I looked up the synonym for unhinged because we are saying that so much, and it describes it so perfectly. If anyone's seen a clip, this is the speech where NEA President Becky Pringle is shouting, "Win all the things," over and over and over. And then she's talking about do this work. So when she's talking about win all the things, obviously she means electing union endorsed candidates and officials. She's also talking about strikes. She celebrated in this 28 or so minute speech the strikes that closed down schools. So win all the things, and if you're not winning, close schools with strikes. She celebrated the legislative victories to keep sexually explicit books in schools. She talked about she had some things to say about the Supreme Court. Of course, they talk about abortion. She quickly gets off topic and stops talking about education and starts talking about a progressive agenda and the importance of electing candidates who will forward that agenda. There's lots of talk of genocide and Gaza, any of the progressive grab bag issues. That's what Becky Pringle and the NEA is excited about.
She's Jenny Gentles. I'm Kevin McCullough, coming right back from New York, McCoy.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.